So I watched a couple things this morning, and I was gonna wait a little bit before making a video about any of them, but I decided to hold off on making some of the other videos to tackle something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and that's Kamen Rider Ghost. I think I've mentioned it a few times, playing with little Digimon. Where is it? Where's the camera on this thing? Right here? Right here? Yeah, I'm playing with a little Digimon thing. It's Biomon. Biomon's pre-Digivolutions. Got distracted. But so, I wanted to talk about Kamen Rider. Because there's 5, so episode 46 will probably be coming out later today. Episode 45 came out last week, and I just hadn't gotten around to watching it until today. And there's 5 more episodes. I looked it up on the wiki or whatever. There's going to be 50 episodes total, which is kind of weird to me, because I didn't think it'd get 50. I thought it would end at 48, but it didn't. It's not going to. So there's about 5 more episodes, and I figured I could talk about it right now, because even when the final episode airs, my overall opinions aren't going to change. My opinion on the series might change a little depending on how the ending is, but generally I am going to feel exactly the same about it. I know this to be true. So this was a really disappointing Kamen Rider for me, because the premise wasn't amazing. The premise was never amazing, you know, he dies and gotta fight the Ganma and all that. Because, you know, a lot of people might disagree, but I loved Kamen Rider Gaim. I really liked that there were all these different characters that had all these different ambitions, and sometimes they were together, sometimes they weren't, but I felt like they all had their own things they wanted to do, even if you argue they weren't always fleshed out or whatever, you know, like maybe Zack or something. I still felt like everybody was trying, even if they worked together, they still had their own reasons for doing what they were doing, and I really liked that. But the premise was really stupid, because I dropped it for a little bit. I watched like 4 episodes and then stopped watching it because it was Fruit Samurai instead of Fruit Ninja. Literally Fruit Samurais. That's what it was about. And dancing. For the first like 11 episodes, it was like just dancing or something. And I dropped it. But then, you know, I have this weird thing where I can't not watch a Kamen Rider season, even if I don't like it, because then I feel like I'm missing a part of the overall story of Kamen Rider, because then there will always be movies, and then crossovers, and then there's references, and, you know, I'll feel like I'm missing something. So I always watch it to get the full picture, because maybe I'll like it in the end. That's always possible. And when it came to Gaim, I dropped it for a while, and then I picked it back up once it was around episode 20, and then once the first major event happens, I was just, like, so into it. Like, unbelievably into it. So I was like, oh, it's really great in the end, and I loved it. And it had such a stupid premise. So for Ghost, I didn't necessarily have, you know, I wasn't holding it to some sort of standard, but I was hoping it would be, you know, something. I don't know. But, you know, I held out hope for a while. And then the first time Takeru died and came back, I was just kind of done. Because I understand the guy, I understand that the main character died. Okay. I understand the premise isn't necessarily about the big wish, like it sort of is, but it sort of wasn't, and you could tell by how quickly he was getting icons and how quickly the days were going by that, you know, it was just going to be like before even the mid-season thing. And it's like, when he died, so spoilers, you haven't seen Ghost, but I don't know why you're watching this if you haven't seen Ghost. When he first dies, like he does the... No, wait, yeah, when he first can't get all the icons, or he can't make the wish, or even when he, like, does the thing and bring Kanon back, and then he doesn't get his wish because he already did the wish thing, it's like, he dies about, like, 4 times, and the first time it happened, I was like, he's gotta come back, because it's episode, like, I don't know, 12 or something, it's really early. Actually, it's not 12, but it's very early. Like, there's no way he's going to have some weird dramatic thing. And he comes back. And then that happens, like, 2 more times. And I was like, are there any dramatic stakes? Am I supposed to think this guy's gonna die? Like, actually, am I supposed to fear when the show he's already dead? Or in the latest episode, or not the latest one, but the semi-latest one, if you haven't seen it, spoilers, I guess, the Makoto clone that's possibly the real Makoto or turning into the real Makoto that just got Deep Spectre tries to choke Kanan, I guess? But of course Kanan's not going to have anything happen to her. Is that supposed to be dramatic? Of course she's not going to, because nobody else has died or ever really been seriously injured enough for it to be, like, something major happened. Like, literally, not even the villains are dying. The only character that really died was Anand's Anand and Adele's father. That's, like, it. I mean, Takeru's father died before the beginning of the series, but the only real person who died was, like, Anand's father, and that was supposed to kind of just be to spur Anand to become, like, a better person, really, and to really join the gang and go against his brother or whatever. So, you know, that's all. And, you know, even in Drive, in later parts of Drive, spoiler alert, kind of, like, spoiler alert for Endgame things if you haven't seen Drive, click ahead a little bit. Whenever I say spoiler alert, just click ahead a little bit if you haven't seen or heard it or whatever, because I'm going to be talking about their series. Villains die. The villains, like I said, spoiler alert, the villains die, like, earlier, like, you know, Medic and Brain and stuff. That's not always just the last episode. And so you sit there and you're like, well, of course the villains have to go, but it's just, Drive wasn't necessarily the best show either, but I felt like it was more dramatic than everything else, because with Chase and everything, and you know what happens to Chase if you've seen it, like, it was better. Even, well, it's, to me, Ghost is on the same level as Wizard, except Wizard was better, because Wizard had more likable characters, or at least Wizard had Kamen Rider Beast, who was the best character besides Haruto. But in Wizard, there was always, like, a threat, and it felt like you were supposed to feel threatened, like, oh man, something might happen. But nothing happened until the end, which you knew something had to happen, because if nothing happened, the show couldn't end. That's just what it is. I wanted something more along the lines of O's, where O's and Gaim to me were on the same level, because O's maybe didn't have as much as whatever's going on as in Gaim did, but with O's, it was like, there were the villains, and there were the Kamen Riders, and not so much the Kamen Riders, although kind of, but the villains, all of them were supposed to be working together, but at one point, most of them kind of just had their own things going on, because of, like, with all the different guys, and, like, the only one who didn't have his own thing was Gamel, because he was the nicest villain ever, but everyone else sort of had their own agenda, even if they were all together. And in the Kamen Rider case, with, between, you know, O's and Birth, because birthday, they both had sort of, whether it was, I forget what their names are right now, because there were two characters who both became Kamen Rider Birth at different parts of the series. They both had different things that they were doing and different reasons why they were doing it. Like, that's just what it was. And Kamen Rider, this Ghost doesn't really feel like that. Ghost has very meh characters. None of them are really charming or anything. Onari's the closest thing because he's funny. And, like, Aran is probably the actual best character because he goes through character growth. But Makoto is, like, really angsty. He's like a worse version of Excel from W, except the only thing he gets when he gets better, he just becomes more obsessed with his sister. I gotta protect my sister. Kanan, the sister, literally is nothing. She's there to just be a problem, sort of. That's it. And then Akari's the science person who, like, really helps the plot, but I don't care about her at all, really. Takeru is the Gary Suiest Sue I've ever fucking met, because he's always just better. At least in, like, Gaim or in O's or, like, in some other ones, there's, like, a reason they get better or they get more powerful or they have to sacrifice something to get more powerful or something. But with Takeru, he just, like, naturally is better. He's just like, I can do this now, and now I can see memories, and now I can do this, and the feelings of my friends have brought me back to life, and I'm also kind of a god now because I'm the Kamen Rider of Light, and I can literally just turn into particles to dodge attacks and then come back. Like, what? What? And he's always just the nice guy. He's like that older stereotypical JRPG character who's like, I do the righteous thing because it's the right thing to do in the always. And I'm like, why? Who cares? So? what does it matter? Like, it doesn't, he's just like, I'm sure, even when Adele is like being a total dickbag and he's trying to destroy the world and combined with everybody and turn Earth into something terrible, he's just like, no, I am sure that if I connect with him, everything will be okay. And no one else is thinking like this, really. They're believing in him because he's the Kamen Rider, but like, no one else is thinking this way. Even in Gaim, Kota was kind of like this, but even Kota wasn't like, I'm sure if I could just talk it out with Ryoma, everything. No, he knew it wouldn't work because Ryoma's just that type of person. And in this case, I feel like Takeru, and it's either gonna work, and Adele's just gonna magically not be bad anymore, or what's gonna happen is Adele's going to realize his mistake at the very, very, very end, right before he dies, or something like that. Also, Takeru as like a Kamen Rider, or as an actor really, but isn't really believable. The guy who plays him, I mean, it's his first role, so I'm not really that mad about it, because I think I read it online or something that this is actually like his first role, and I'm not that mad about it. He's not really believable, though, to be honest, and he doesn't express his emotions well, because sometimes he'll just be screaming, and I understand he's supposed to be angry, but I don't really feel like he's mad, you know? I'm like, I don't really believe you at all. Like, he doesn't give off a super believable performance, and that's probably my biggest problem with him, and why I find it so hard to connect with him. Adan, even, I don't know about some of his other like emotions, but I feel like he's one of the better ones, because I feel like I really get who he is right now. And I don't know if that's the writing, or if that's his acting, or if it's a combination. I really don't know. I'm not, that perceptive about that sort of stuff. But just me personally, I can get really attached to characters, really attached to them, depending on how they're in anime and in live action shit like this, and it depends, of course, on the writing and how it's animated and the voice acting. And there can be a character I meet in one episode and then cry about when they die later, or go through a terrible emotional thing. But I've known some of these characters for 40 episodes, and I could care less about most of them, except for Adan and when anything happens to him. And so I feel like that says something about the series itself, considering I've cried at Kiva, O's, Gaim, Drive, not Wizard though, W, cried really hard at W. I've cried on so many of them, but Drive has yet to even make me get close to shedding a tear. So there's that's the problem. And the plot is so, like, convoluted, and there's times where just like, oh, we just so happen to be able to do this at this time. It's like the most ridiculous thing ever. And sometimes there's like no reason for any of it to happen, and it does, and I just get really upset about it. Like in this latest episode, there's so many starts and stops, it bothers me. Like, I'm gonna get into the Demia network. It gets in, gets stopped by Ganmeisers, fights the Ganmeisers, fights the Ganmeisers, but then it immediately stops because, inconceivable, goes away. Oh man, all these noises in my head, I can hear all the emotions of the people. Stops, wakes up, back in. Okay, we're going on a walk. Connects with Adele. Makoto fights the other guy who's like different than the rest of them. Has one attack, stops the fight, moves on to the next thing. Kanon almost gets killed, moves on. And there's so many stops and starts to things, and nothing's really explained, and it's all just like, he seems different, I don't know what to do. You mean I'm Data? And it just doesn't flow really well. It just kind of feels so weird, and I don't like that. It doesn't flow well enough for me to like watch it well. I just kind of sit there and I'm like, okay, wait, what? Okay, what? And maybe that's my problem, but I just felt like that particular episode, and sometimes the series as a whole has a really bad problem with doing that. Like, it's just, I don't really enjoy that. And it's just, I watched, the Legendary Souls mini Kamen Rider thing that I don't know if many people have watched, but I was watching. And it was the epilogue. I believe it's the final episode, and if not, it's the final episode that matters, so I've heard. And in this one, all the stuff happens, and they get all the souls, and they beat the guy, and nobody explains anything, And the two girls who were in the series randomly that just keep saying, Tenkuji Takeru is the key, but doesn't explain it. But those girls are in this short. The one gives Takeru a little icon that says 45. She combines a bunch of them or whatever, and it says 45. And I don't know why it says 45. It can be a number of reasons. Maybe he's the 45th Kamen Rider. Maybe this is the 45th icon. I don't know because I'm not counting any of these things. There's several things it could be. Maybe 45 is a different number is a different reason we don't know about. I don't know. But I can bet you in the final freaking thing, in the final fight, he will probably use that icon to defeat Aran in the last minute or something. Or something like that, because that's usually what happens. It happens in Pretty Cures when they get the special upgrades in the movies and they use it in the final match. It's happened in Sentai series sometimes. Stuff like that happens randomly all the time, so I wouldn't even be shocked if that happened. And I know this has been really long-winded, and I also realize I haven't really explained myself as well as I would have liked, but it was more like a kind of rambling, ranting sort of thing. I wasn't trying to make this super legitimate or whatever. I just wanted to get this off my chest because I just finished watching an episode and I had a lot of feelings about it and I just wanted to talk about it. But let me know if you're watching Kamen Rider. Let me know what you thought of Ghost in the comments below, or what you still think of Ghost, because it's still going on for 5 more weeks. So, well, actually, after this week, it'll probably be about 4 more weeks. So, yeah, let me know what you thought of it, and I guess I'll see you when the series ends. I probably won't make one next week. I might. Who knows? Let me know. Bye.